afternoon from wherever you are at. I am Bella. Welcome back to my channel. It's officially love month, February. For me, February is definitely a love month because I have my boyfriend's birthday. And then the next week I have our anniversary. And then the next week after that, Valentine's Day. Like, are you kidding me? It's literally so much fun. And recently I got a comment requesting that I do a romance recommendations video, and that's exactly what we're gonna do today. I have 20 romance recommendations to give you guys today from all sorts of different categories: general romance, spicy romance, cowboy, LGBTQ plus friendly, all of those things. So let's not dilly-dally. Let's get right on into it. Got all the stacks back here. Let's start out with just some general romance books that I really love. I think there's some spice in these. Definitely in one of them there's a lot of spice, but spice varies, so read at your own discretion. First up on this list, we are starting strong with Out on a Limb. Out on a Limb tells the story of a woman named Wynn who ends up hooking up with a guy named Beau on Halloween, and what do you know? A couple weeks later, pregnant. And you know what? Beau steps up to the plate and they learn how to be friends, they learn how to be co-parents, and maybe things turn into more. I would definitely recommend this to people even if they are not big on the pregnancy trope. I know pregnancy tropes can be hard, but Wynn and Beau are the most incredible couple ever. They are so cute. Beau is MMC of the century. Such a man. Their banter in here is so great. So if you enjoy a really funny, bantery romance with moments that just absolutely warm your heart and just make you so happy for these characters, go pick up Out on a Limb. Okay, you know what? Let's just keep the pregnancy tropes going, and I would also recommend Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This was my first experience with a pregnancy trope, and I read it last summer, and I think it changed the game for me. It's surprise pregnancy, friends to lovers, slow burn. This is about a woman named Eve who, surprise, ends up pregnant, but it's not the baby's daddy who steps up to the plate. Oh, no. It's her best friend's brother, Shep. From a romance point of view, this book is just so precious. I loved it. But not only that, her pregnancy is just like so humbling to me for some reason, because it's the first time I had read a book from start to finish of a pregnancy and getting to see like everything that comes with that. And I think going through this with her and Shep was just so humbling to me as someone who cannot fathom having a child like ever, because I'm so scared. So I would definitely recommend this. Also, cover gorgeous. We love her. Next up, we have Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. This is about a woman named Allie who is just in a rut. She is not having a good time. Things are just kind of stacked against her right now. And she ends up having a meet cute in a park with a man named Ethan. Allie's a newly single mom, and then this man named Ethan just comes walking up into her life. This is like such a bingeable romance. I sat down and read it in like a day or two. It's short and sweet. Again, so heartwarming, especially with having like a kid involved. You not only get to see Allie and Ethan fall in love and everything that comes with that, but you also get to watch Ethan fall in love with her kid. It's just absolutely precious. I would definitely recommend this, especially if you're looking for a really fast read, because this one just goes by fast. Another summer related book I would definitely recommend, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This book is about a woman named Emma who meets a guy named Justin through a Reddit thread of all things. They both believe that they're cursed and that every time they date somebody, that person goes on to find their true love and they're just stuck there being single. So they decide, well, let's meet up and see if this curse will cancel out, and then we'll both find our soulmates. Love that. So cute. She goes to fly out to meet Justin and they spend time together. The rest is history. I would definitely recommend this book if you love a funny romance. It is so freaking funny. Like, just from the first like prologue, you're like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be hilarious. So A, it's so funny. B, I love a romance that not only focuses on two people together and the things that they bring to each other, but their stories separately and the things that they have been dealing with and trying to get those things sorted out as well, if that makes sense. So it's just such a sweet romance and they are both just so great for each other. I love Emma and Justin. Go read this. Next up, we have an Emily Henry book. Let me just preface this by saying all Emily Henry books, you can't go wrong. Happy Place, beach read, book lovers, like everything is so great. But I have to say, funny story really stood out to me as one of my favorites from her. This tells the story of a woman named Daphne whose fiance breaks up with her for his childhood best friend named Petra. Now Daphne's kind of stranded, doesn't know what to do, doesn't really know where to live, and she figures who best to live with than someone in the same predicament as her? Petra's ex-boyfriend, Miles. So that's her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex. So they end up living together as roommates. Miles is just heartbroken. She's obviously grieving in her own way the loss of her fiance. It's very much opposites attract, friends to lovers almost. I just think the setting of this is just so perfect. I think it's a great place to fall in love, to have all these adventures together as Miles and Daphne do, and fake dating. Lots of great tropes in here. Always recommend any Emily Henry, but Funny Story is one of my faves. Next up, I have 2 Ali Hazelwood books. I could not choose just one of hers. The first one is one of her most recent releases, and that is Not in Love. This one was one that she wrote a little tonally different than the rest of her books, and I loved it. I thought it was so great. It's very, very spicy. It's a friends with benefits, or like enemies with benefits, kind of. I think enemies with benefits is a better way to put it. So this is about a woman named Rue who is a hardworking corporate worker for this company called Klein. She is very stable. She's very much in control of her life. In comes this man named Eli from another company who is coming to take her company down. It's pretty much instant enemies, but also instant attraction. Again, very, very spicy, but in a way that is a little sad because it's their way of dealing with their own inner issues, and you kind of watch it turn into more. So I'm just a sucker for a woman in STEM romance. Always have, always will be. Another Ali Hazelwood and another woman in STEM romance is Love Theoretically. This book is so good. Love Theoretically is about a woman named Elsie who is an adjunct professor, physicist. So cool. But she also really struggles to make money, and so on the side she's a fake girlfriend for people who like need a fake girlfriend for events. But her life is thrown into chaos once a man named Jack comes into the picture, who is another physicist that actually ruined her mentor's career, and so obviously enemies. When Elsie's up for her dream job at MIT, she realizes that Jack is the one on the hiring committee, and not only is he on the hiring committee, but he also knows about her fake dating gig. Which is so funny. So it's very much a mix of like academic rivals to lovers, workplace tension, and obviously so funny because it's Ali Hazelwood. Not to mention all of the side characters in this are so, so good. I've said this a million times. Ali Hazelwood writes every single character in a book like they're the main character, and I love it because everyone is just so funny, so interesting, so uniquely themselves. So I will always recommend Love Theoretically. And while it is a little bit longer, it is so fast paced and it just holds your attention the whole time. So I would definitely recommend picking up Love Theoretically if you can. Next up, I have 2 LGBTQ plus romances that I would definitely recommend. The first one is Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This is so freaking good. This is a sapphic romance about a woman named Delilah who is an NYC photographer, and she goes back to her small town to photograph her stepsister's wedding. And when she comes back into town, she meets a single parent named Claire. Claire just turns her whole life around, obviously. Delilah Green is somebody who just has a very closed heart, very tough exterior, and Claire is somebody who just chips at the ice until there's nothing left but love. That's like the best way to explain it. Small town romance, grumpy sunshine, opposites attract. This is all taking place in like a wedding setting, so if you like a wedding setting, this will be great for you. It's also very steamy, so if you're into that. I just love the characters in this book, and they really, really set you up for the next one, which is about Delilah's sister, Astrid. So definitely recommend this one. My next recommendation is obviously the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. These are YA graphic novels about 2 little British boys named Nick and Charlie who develop a little friendship together, and it soon blossoms into love. They are just so precious. The illustrations are just so gorgeous. Alice Oseman does such a great job. Very much friends to lovers, coming of age, supportive friend and family groups. I love reading about families and friend groups that are just so supportive of the main characters. It just like warms my heart. I recommend this series to anybody. It is so wholesome, very, very beautifully illustrated. It's got a lot of LGBTQ plus representation and tackles a lot of important topics with teens in this age group, but also just has a really soft and sweet romance, and perfect just for if you want a really feel good, fast read. So would definitely recommend the Heartstopper series. Next, I have a fantasy romance recommendation, and I'm sorry, it's always gonna be ACOTAR and ACOMAF. This will always be the standard for me when it comes to fantasy romances. Throne of Glass is all-time favorite Sarah J Maas series, obviously, but I wouldn't call it a romance series at all. I would definitely say the first 2 books of the ACOTAR series are heavily romantic-y. ACOTAR is about a mortal woman who accidentally kills a Fey wolf. She is taken to the Feylands with a man named Tamlin as punishment for what she did. She has to live out the rest of her days there with this handsome High Lord. So she has to navigate living in a new land with magic, all different creatures, court politics. She has to deal with all of that stuff. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so if that kind of tells you the kind of vibes we're looking at. Enemies to lovers, kind of a forbidden romance of Fae and a mortal human. It's steamy, it's immersive. You're fully engulfed like into this world. I feel like the minute you start reading it, that's how it was for me. And the story just keeps growing when you go on to ACOMAF. That is all I can say. Will always recommend these to anybody who asks. Next up, we have the Anna Huang section of romance. I know people have their qualms about Anna Huang, but they are simple and effective, fast-paced. I just don't think you can go wrong. My first recommendation is gonna be the Kings of Sin series, specifically King of Greed and King of Pride. I really like these, and I think if you're starting out in romance and you want like a really great, steamy, fast-paced romance that is just, it's simple, it's feel good. Can it be cringe and unrealistic sometimes? Yes. Like, it's still fire. It still sells. In this book, we have Kai and Isabella. Kai is a nerd. He is reserved. He is obviously a billionaire, as the men in Anna Huang books are. And Isabella is bold and impulsive and chaotic. Kai is just not her type, but she doesn't know. King of Greed is about Dominic and Alessandra, who are already married, and she calls it quits. She's had enough. She's not happy anymore. And we have to watch as Dominic just comes crawling back to her begging to give him a second chance. Are you kidding me? Oh, I also didn't explain the Kings of Sin series is interconnected romance novels, each following a different billionaire man, obviously. And each book is inspired by one of the 7 deadly sins. So billionaire romances, they're usually pretty morally gray. Definitely give them a try. I will always recommend the Twisted series only because it was one of my first romance series I ever read. I think it just has a special place in my heart. Same thing like with the Kings of Sin series. Simple, effective, steamy romances, and I love them. Specifically, I love Twisted Lies. This is the last book in the series. They're technically interconnected, so you can kind of read them wherever. It's about a man named Christian Harper, who is a billionaire with a very dark side, very morally gray, and a woman named Stella who's a social media influencer, and she needs a fake boyfriend. Who better than Christian Harper? It starts as a very convenient arrangement for the two of them, and obviously blossoms into something more. Fake dating, billionaire romance, morally gray, obsession, slow burn. I think it's perfect slow burn tension in this one. And if you just love a morally gray man, you're gonna love Christian Harper. Okay, our next category is dark romances, which I don't read many, and I think I like a lighter dark romance. I've tried a couple like really dark romances, and I just, sometimes they're a little too crazy for me. But I like a light dark romance, and that's what I would say. Actually, no, I don't know. It just depends on the day. Anyways, I will always recommend Lights Out by Navisa Allen. I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is so good. Jacob Morgan needs to voice every single man in an audiobook ever, period. I will die on that hill. Lights Out is about a woman named Allie who was a nurse and has just become absolutely desensitized to the world around her because of her job. And she is obsessed with this man online who makes like masked thirst traps, essentially. Little does she know, it's this man named Josh who becomes very aware of her presence on his social media page. It's a pretty twisted romance. He breaks into her house and sets up cameras. It's hard to say things without spoiling this book, but stalker romance, very morally gray characters, both of them. Very kink friendly. If you're into stuff like that. I think it's a very good balance of like really dark romance and like really sweet moments that kind of cancel each other out. It's a very unconventional love story, and I would just recommend it if you're into those dark romances like that. So my next 2 recommendations are Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark. These are so good. I read Butcher and Blackbird for the first time right after finishing the whole Mossverse. I finished up the Crescent City series and didn't know what to read, and I turned to Butcher and Blackbird, and it was the best book I could could have possibly read at that time. So Butcher and Blackbird is a dark romance about two serial killers named Sloane and Rowan. They kind of compete every year together in a competition. Rowan's brother, who's also morally gray, finds somebody for them to kill and they have to get to them first. They're both definitely like vigilante killer vibes, like Dexter almost. They're killing like bad people. Enemies to lovers, anti-heroes. Very, very dark humor. It's got a lot of dark humor in here. The trigger warnings at the beginning of the book should speak for themselves. I just think it's such a unique book. It's thrilling almost when you're reading about the things that they're doing. Another very unconventional romance, which I love. Very, very funny. Such great chemistry between the two characters. And then Leather and Lark is about Lachlan and Lark. Lachlan is a vigilante killer as well. Lark is like, I think she's like a hacker, if I'm not mistaken. I know you've heard me say this a million times, but like Rivals to Lovers in this one is done so freaking well. Like I loved it. I'm also a sucker for like a grumpy sunshine romance. Just every single time it'll get me. Lots of banter, two very flawed lead characters, which I love. And again, dark humor, read the trigger warnings. We'll always recommend this trilogy. I can't wait for the third one to come out. I already know I'm gonna love it. Okay guys, we're getting down to the last few. Lastly, we've got some cowboy romance recommendations. First up, Done and Dusted. I love Done and Dusted. This is a small town cowboy romance about a girl named Emmy who comes back to her small town after taking a tumble off of her horse, sadly, and that's what she does for a living. So she is struggling with that. She ends up moving in with her brother's best friend, who she has grown up with. And to Luke, she has always kind of been off limits as his best friend's baby sister, but tensions start to rise. Obviously. Brother's best friend, forced proximity, small town, all those vibes. Very, very short and very fast paced. We've got a swoon-worthy Luke. Obviously, it's very steamy, very cozy, all of those vibes. I would recommend this whole series. This is the first book, so start with this guy. Yeah, I'll always recommend this. Lastly, we've got two books from the Chestnut Spring series. We've got Flawless and Heartless. Love, these are the first two books of the Chestnut Spring series. First, we've got Flawless, a man named Rhett Eaton, who is just a grumpy man, grumpy bull rider. He ends up having to spend a lot of time with his agent's daughter, Summer, after a PR scandal goes awry. What starts with like forced proximity obligation turns into something more. Elsie Silver just will always do it with the banter, comedy, with the tension, all of it. Like she just absolutely kills it every single time. And it just sets up all the characters in the rest of the series for just such great books. We've also got Heartless by Elsie Silver about a single dad named Cade. He needs a nanny. Who better than Summer's best friend Willa, who is a carefree city girl. They've always kind of had a little attraction to each other, but they definitely play it off as rivals. And so lots of banter in this one. These are so fast paced. Like, I mean, they're pretty thick for romances, but this one especially is so incredibly fast paced. It's insane. And it's just very heartwarming because again, you have the single dad aspect. So you have Willa falling in love with his kid and it is just so precious. I will always recommend Elsie Silver romances. Alrighty, you guys, those are all of my romance recommendations. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found one that seems interesting to you and that you might want to read. Something that makes romance books so great is that they are fast paced, they are heartwarming, they make you giggle, and I think all of these books do just that. I hope you read some of these and I hope you enjoy them. If you haven't already, subscribe down below, like this video if you had a good time, and comment down below any types of other videos you would like to see because I am so open to any ideas and I will do whatever you guys want me to do. I will do it for you guys, I promise. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will see you guys next time. Mwah!